Hello there! Let's talk about the game that falls out of the ordinary for this channel. A, it isn't a first-person shooter, and B, it is a rough survival game. And it's an anti-war game that doesn't come at you with annoying moral grandstanding. The game in question is This War of Mine. A game that I wanted to talk about for a while now, ever since I got it. And with the recent release of the final cut, I think it's about time. This War of Mine was developed by 11-Bit Studios, a company based in Poland, and it is available for almost every system, from the PC to the Nintendo Switch. The game offers an unusual perspective on war, as we see the entire conflict from the rather passive role of a group of civilians. The game was inspired by the Siege of Sarajevo in the 1990s, which lasted for almost 4 years. A human tragedy in which life spiraled more and more out of control. What started with looters ended up with roaming gangs of thugs taking everything they wanted by force, until the rule of law totally collapsed. This game tries to imitate that as best as it can, but some of the statements made in its marketing were a bit over the top. At its core, it is a survival side-scroller with a strong emphasis on resource management and the in-game economy. And the group of civilians can, depending on your playstyle, feel like a ruthless raiding party. The newest tanks, fuel shortages on the front line, or the current location of anti-aircraft artillery positions is not of our concern. We are concerned with far smaller scale operations. We are focused on staying alive amidst the meat grinder that is urban combat. The player has to almost constantly make difficult decisions in order to survive. Every decision does affect the game, and thereby your characters. Let's say you guys are lacking food and are pretty close to starving. What decision do you make? Do you try to raid a rebel outpost for food? Or steal from a defenseless elderly couple? The first option may get you killed. The second may throw your character into a deep depression. In one scenario, you may have a psychopath amongst your characters who can kill with no remorse. But other characters in your group may disapprove of that, and it makes a big difference if you steal or kill. It depends on who do you kill. Do you kill innocent civilians, or soldiers and rebels, or bandits? But there are also more mundane decisions. Do I barricade windows against intruders, or do I use the wood to heat my shelter so I don't freeze to death? From time to time, neighbors may knock on your door asking for help. Can you afford to help them? Your neighbor comes asking you to help carry away supplies from a crashed military truck you found. Whether or not you decide to help him, you do know of his plan, and when the local militia comes around questioning you, do you rat him out? Maybe you do, when you guys at home are starving and they offer you a few cans of food. You see, making decisions is a big part of the game, but now let us look at the actual gameplay. It is all split into sections, day and nighttime. The day is spent fixing up your shelter, caring for your wounded and sick, cooking food, and so on. Building a moonshine distill to produce alcohol for trading, building guns, fixing up a broken Kevlar vest you found, and so on. And if you find one, definitely fix it up, because at nighttime those come in handy. But before you venture out into the dark, you have to assign some roles. Who gets to sleep in a bed or on the floor? Who stands guard? And who's the lucky one who has to scavenge for food and other supplies and face danger? After you picked a scavenger, you can select items you want to take with you. If you head to an unknown location, you might want to consider arming yourself, because you never know who you encounter. But don't worry, the first places you visit are usually pretty calm. Some tools come in handy from time to time. Lockpicks and saw blades are the most common ones you'll need. But shovels and crowbars are also useful, especially when facing obstacles. And as we learned in Half-Life, crowbars also make a pretty good self-defense weapon. The game does a good job introducing you to these tools from the very beginning. You will find a few lockpicks around your house when you start, alongside a few doors to unlock with them. When you are out scavenging, the tools can be used to open up new paths or to unlock stashes of valuables. Your scavenger has a limited carrying ability, and every piece of equipment takes up a slot. So you have to choose what's more important, coming prepared, or the ability to carry more stuff home. Both phases of the day have a time limit. If the sun sets before your construction task is finished, you can pick up the work exactly where you left it the next day. But when you're out scavenging and are caught by sunlight, you have a more difficult time getting home and will at minimum come home later and more tired. Because yes, your character needs sleep alongside food. Good deeds go a long way for raising the mood, in real life and in this game as well. Here a man is trapped on the square, because a sniper is overlooking it and is shooting at everything that moves. He is wounded and can't move fast enough. You can choose to ignore him, or take the risk, make it towards his apartment and help him make it back through the sewers. He will show himself grateful. Good deeds usually go unpunished in this game, and sometimes good deeds require some muscle. You hear of a house from which screams can be heard at night. Turns out people are being held captive by bandits, and sneaking in won't cut it to free them. Sometimes only brute force will do it. Equipped with a helmet, a Kevlar vest, a long knife and an assault rifle, you make your way towards the enemy and pray you won't run out of bullets, because if you do, you better have an escape plan or you will likely die. And your character will stay dead, since there is no save option. The game saves your progress every morning, so in case you mess up during your scavenge, you will have to deal with the consequences. This war of mine has a simple and straightforward combat system. When you have weapons with you, you can equip them and go into combat mode. So picking up valuables is no longer possible and combat relevant icons show up. You can take cover behind door frames and larger pieces of furniture. Leading a firefight from there is always preferable, because even if you wear a helmet and a flak jacket, you can die pretty fast. Most of the times it's preferable to use your guns only in emergency cases and save the ammo for home defense, because you don't have people standing guard just for fun. While you are out scavenging, others may try to raid your home, so having people at home with guns is a huge bonus. So when you get into a fight when you're out scavenging, consider striking from a concealed position and ambush the opponent. Maps are usually littered with dark corners to hide in. A good tactic is to lure the enemy towards you and then attack them. Make some noise or leave a door open that they closed before, so they walk around investigating if someone is there. And if they come close, you strike. Swift and precise. If the area is clear, you may also search the bodies. An extra gun is always good. Even if you don't need it, it's great for trading. Oh, and heads up, if you return the next day, the bodies will be gone. So, you made it in one piece that night and brought home some good stuff. You go on fixing up your shelter, improving your equipment, growing vegetables, distilling alcohol. You set up a rainwater collector, build a filter to clean the water, and cook something good with the food you brought home from your raid. If you happen to have a good cook amongst your people, even better, they use less resources to make food. Every character has a special trait to them, some positive, some not so much. Some really need a cigarette to keep calm, others may have a kind spirit and keep others cheerful. Others may be trained in hand-to-hand combat, are a good shooter, or are the previously mentioned good cook. And then again others may just happen to be pregnant. My good cook in this scenario is pregnant, so she may be a good cook, but is of little use when it comes to standing guard or venturing out at night. In conclusion, not only resource management is essential for success, but also managing your, labor force in accordance with their skills and traits and laying out your strategies based on that. With a group of battle-hardened veterans, you might lead a more aggressive playstyle. With a bunch of handyman and good cooks, you may want to try your luck with focusing more on trade and producing things. That's the basic gameplay of this war of mine. A struggle to survive until the misery is over and do a little better every day. A challenging and really immersive game. Yet, there's more. The developers have released a number of add-ons. An interesting addition is the Little Ones DLC, which adds children to your survivors. By the way, some of the proceeds of this DLC go to the Wall Child Foundation, so you would be doing a good deed by purchasing this add-on. The addition of children to the game increased the drama factor by a lot, I would say. The children can't really die and are only in the shelter, and can at first seem to be more of a burden than any help. You can teach them how to do things around the house, but it takes a little while until they know how to, make a water collector or something. But yet, they are a tremendous motivation for your people to fight for survival.
It does not take much for us to destroy. But it is what we create. And not how we wage wars. That makes us human.
Additionally, there are 3 big DLCs, story add-ons. They take the base game's mechanics and use them to tell a story. The survival aspect is moved back slightly, and the game becomes a bit more forgiving in regards to finding food and materials. Instead, decisions and interactions with NPCs become all the more important, and important sections will be highlighted with cutscenes. In the Father's Promise story, you need to find your daughter who has been abducted. Some truly heartbreaking stuff happens there, and I'm currently right in the middle of it. In the last transmission, you take control over a radio station and broadcast some unwelcome truths. I suppose I don't have to mention you don't make a lot of friends in the army and the rebels alike. I won't spoil any story details, just saying there are some gut punches there. As for the last one, Fading Embers, I still have to play it myself, so I can't say all too much. All I know so far is that it revolves around an art collection and you try to preserve it. Nonetheless, I am looking forward to it. It seems to be something new, as some people are really pleased with it and others not so much. So it appears to be a bit of a diversion from the regular gameplay, so I'm looking forward to it. Anyhow, at least the base game is definitely worth your time, and the majority of players seem to agree with me on that. When you see the game on discount, definitely check it out, and even for the regular price it is something worth your money. If you are looking for a thrilling survival game that can be played a little slower than your usual FPS or RTS, games you regularly see on this channel, then this is something for you. If we had a point score, I'd give it a 8.5 out of 10. The game has a high replayability value, not only because you want to see if you can do better next time, but also because the locations change. Where in one playthrough you might find friendly soldiers willing to trade booze against a few magazines and pistols, you might find them to be hostile in the next playthrough, or the place to be completely deserted. Who knows? Furthermore, the game grants you an enormous amount of freedom. The base game could be called a survival sandbox that allows you to walk your own way. You can be the struggling family from the trailer, or you can also be that gang of thugs I mentioned in the beginning. The anti-war message that this game wants to convey does not come in the form of a lecture, but in the form of showing, not telling. It brings the horrors and madness of war to you without commenting on it, and lets you draw your own conclusions. It is uncensored, and gruesome crimes can be witnessed, stopped, and even committed. The game leaves it entirely up to you how far you will go in order to survive, even if it's at the cost of your own humanity. The game is consistently atmospheric. The visual style really underlines the dystopian setting. All this is aided by a well-crafted sound backdrop. Not only are the ambient noises good, the musical score of this game is also flawless. There were also some negative things that stood out to me here and there. A guy standing inside a door or standing inside furniture or something, but nothing too major. The only big thing I encountered was the whole background not properly loading. It looks off, but restarting the game did the job. And in over 100 hours of playing this, I only encountered this twice. Due to the fact that this game is played with the mouse only, the controls can be fiddly at times. Moving the camera around with the arrow keys or WASD would be of great help. And it appears as if the character does not always respond immediately, and in high-tension situations this can be potentially deadly. But These are not game-breaking or too frequent, and not to end on a negative, this game has a Steam Workshop integration, so creating your own campaigns or even creating your own characters is possible. So in summary, a solid survival game. And even though the game is, by design, not supposed to be fun, I can say after around 100 hours of playtime, it gets my seal of approval. A special thanks to all supporters on Patreon who of course got to see the video first. To you and everyone else, I hope you enjoyed the review and found this to be informative. So, see you guys next time. Until then, have a nice day and as always, goodbye and guten Tag.